Another week, another video. Okay, this time we're going to talk about the concept of 10,000 hours and active practicing. Oh god, I can't even remember what the term's called. But consciously practicing in We'll just get to the explaining. Screw it. We don't need to talk about the titles. So 10,000 hours. What's that all about? So it's the concept of if you want to become a master of something, either playing the piano or being a software developer or a soccer player, I don't know, whatever it is, whatever your heart desires, you need to spend 10,000 hours doing it. Now, I think there's a lot of merit to that. And some people do talk shit about it, and we'll get to that in a sec, but let's just talk about the core concept as it stands. So it's obvious to me, probably you, and I'd probably say most people, that if I've spent an hour, let's just say, practicing the guitar, I'm probably not going to be as good as someone who's spent 10,000 hours practicing the guitar. No shit. So, oh man, I can't believe I'm making a video about this. This seems so obvious, but sometimes the most obvious is the hardest to see, right? So you need to do that. So if you want to be a good writer, so that's something I'm trying to do, trying to become a writer. I'm pretty horrible at it because obviously I haven't spent 10,000 hours yet, but you need to immerse yourself, because what it does is you start to see certain structures and behaviors within that domain or that competency that you will slowly become more aware, you become more aware of them as you spend more time within that domain. And then what you'll eventually realize is that you can make things just get easier. You know what I mean? Performing at a high level becomes easier because you just become so. It's become so natural for you that it's not a problem. You're not a fresh novice or anything. So you've gotten to a point where you've seen it all before, or you've seen much of what there is within that domain or that expertise. And yeah, there might be some specialization that you don't have, but you've at least got a very strong generalist level understanding of the domain, what's expected, what the rules are, how things function, the way things work. You essentially have a map of the kind of domain, and that's, I think, a good start, I guess. But then where people kind of go and where there's detraction and people say, oh no, 10,000 hours is bullshit, that it's bullshit. It's that's more of a nitpick than I think anything else, because what it's saying is, if I spend, 10,000 hours learning, Mary Had a Little Lamb on the piano, if I spend 10,000 hours doing that, I'm not going to be a great piano player. I'm going to be really damn good at playing, oh god, what was the song I just used? Shit, I can't even remember the notes. Rewind back and you'll remember it. I can't rewind back, unfortunately, so dang, I'm in live. So you'll be a rock star at playing that one song, but when it comes to playing anything else or just playing the piano in general, you're going to be pretty shit. So I get that, but I feel it's kind of, a nitpick, because, I don't think anyone would spend 10,000 hours just working on one song, but whatever. But it does have a point where if you're not, you might be spending 10,000 hours doing the thing, but if you're not pushing yourself and pushing your limits of your skill, then you truly, it doesn't matter how much time you spend, you're not growing, which kind of leads into the next thing, which is active practicing or intelligent practicing. Doesn't matter. The term is nebulous, it doesn't really matter. But what that's about is kind of helping to cement the argument for the 10,000 hours. So what that is about is when you're doing, you're setting out time to practice guitar or writing or, developing software or whatever. It's about planning it. So you set out kind of criteria, or at least things that you might not be really good at. So I think instruments are probably the best one to use. But so let's say you've spent a couple thousand hours playing guitar, and you've gotten pretty damn good at it, right? If someone gives you the sheet music, you wouldn't be too hard pressed to play the song, right? Maybe you need a couple try runs, but then you can kind of get it down, right? But the thing is, and you can keep going, and like, yeah, you'll get better and better at it, but the thing is, your growth will kind of like, taper off at a certain point. Like, there'll come to a point where you're not growing at the same incredible rate. So what that kind of then needs is the active learning, or the active practicing, where instead of just, sitting down and playing guitar and, just strumming away and, having a great old time, what you do instead is you try and focus on a certain technique. Now, I don't know any guitar techniques or special ways of playing the guitar. I'm sure there are millions, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. And what you do instead of just, playing some music and having fun, or, enjoying yourself in that fashion, is you try and get better at the technique. Probably one that you're not good at, like, because, if you haven't spent a lot of time on it, yeah, you're probably not good at it. But do that to expand your overall skill, because you might be a really good guitar player, but you might not have all the different specializations and little extras that you could have if you just spent that little bit of time to at least plan what you're going to do before you sit down and start playing or doing whatever it necessarily is. So this is something I myself need to learn to do, especially with my writing, because when I do my writing, I kind of just freestyle it, which I think is just because I'm still in that early stage of the 10,000 hours where I'm just kind of experimenting with things and just kind of not putting restrictions or focusing too tightly on things. I just want to kind of produce and write things just to get it out there and just to say, just so I can go, yes, I started something and then I finished it. Great. On to the next one. But I know at a certain point I'll get to a level where I'm just like, maybe I want to tackle this type of story or this genre, and I want to get, or this subgenre or something, and I want to spend the time and effort to really understand what I need to be doing. And not saying I necessarily have to follow, to the letter what everyone else does, but I need to work within that space and, put enough effort in, focused on that area to get to a point where my stuff can be different from other people's, and I'm free to express my own individuality when it comes to my creating. But I've spent enough time in practice that it's at a honed level where it's not just, garbage. But yeah, so that's something I need to do, and it's I think I'll get there eventually, but I just need to spend more thousands of hours writing before I think I can get there. But I think you need to do the same. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, I don't play guitar, I don't write, I'm not a software developer. I know I said that multiple times, thinking that maybe, that counts or something. But that's okay. That just means that, you probably haven't found, or maybe you have found it, but you just haven't realized it yet, that, there is a skill that you can do. And, it might be something to do with your work, who knows? So you'd have to do some soul searching in that regards. I'd say going back to the early videos, looking at some of the goals and stuff, like, the goal setting and the goal setting techniques, I think you might be able to find a certain skill that you can work on from reading those, or like setting up those goals and then looking at those goals and going, okay, what skills would I need to achieve those things? And then once you've kind of done that, you can kind of write down those skills, and then you go, okay, these are the things I need to spend hours on. So who knows, it could be something, stand out as, public speaking or something like that, because, a lot of people are fearful of that, so that's going to be hard for, a lot of people to do. But if public speaking is attached to your goals, you are going to be so much more determined and motivated to actually, or enthusiastic to go and practice that to get to a point, because, you're driven by something, you're driven by the goal. Like, the skill itself is not really the end game, it's the means to getting to your goal. So, I think that covers a bit about what I want to talk. I might talk about this later in a future video in more depth. I'm kind of just rambling at this point, so I'll probably leave it here. But thanks for watching, and like and subscribe, and leave a follow or whatever. Cue.